3 days. 3 days is all the time you are given to stop the land of Termina from suffering a terrible fate, the moon crashing into the ground and obliterating the town. At the end of the 3 days, you play a song to reset the clock, avoid that terrible fate, and keep making progress. But have you ever wondered if you can beat Majora's Mask in only 3 days? With no resetting, no turning back the clock? Today, we find out. The rules for this challenge are simple. We're only allowed one 3-day cycle to beat the entire game. No song of time, no resets. The run starts as soon as we have access to Young Link after the Deku Link cycle, which runs at 3 times the speed and would require major glitches to beat. No glitches are used in this run to show that it's possible to beat the game in just 3 days without breaking the game. Day 1, and here we go. Bursting straight out of the clock tower doors, the one critical song that makes this run possible is played, the inverted Song of Time. You normally have only 54 minutes till the moon collides with Termina, not to be confused with the regular Song of Time, which resets the cycle. The inverted Song of Time increases our time limit from 54 real-time minutes to a slightly more reasonable 3 hours. With inverted Song of Time on our side, it is time to make a mad dash to the swamp to start the witch side quest. However, one essential step must be done first, activating the owl statue in Milk Road. Now, this particular statue is absolutely critical for this plan to work. In order to access the later areas of the game without glitching, you need to have Epona in order to jump the fences and to grab the Garo mask, which will give us passage into Ikana. But there is one major problem. Romani, who teaches you Epona's song, which is needed to get Epona, is currently cut off from us by this giant boulder blocking the way to the ranch. This means we need the powder keg to destroy the boulder before we can get through. Now, did I mention that this major problem could kill the run right at the start? You only have till 5:59 PM on the first day to reach Romani, as she goes inside as soon as it turns night. Romani is the only person that can teach you Epona's song, and it can't be taught on day 2 or 3. One night, that's it. 12 hours. That's all the time we have to reach her. And here's a crazy list of things that is needed to be done first to achieve this. We need to get Sonata of Awakening from the monkey to breach Woodfall Temple to get the bow. The bow is required to get us into the mountain path which leads to Snowhead Temple. Before we can even reach the temple, we need the Lens of Truth, Goron Mask, and the Goron's Lullaby. All of this is required to get the fire arrows within the temple. The fire arrows are required to melt the ice, blocking the powder keg Goron, and we need to pass the test in order to get our own keg. All of this will come up later. The stakes have risen immensely already. An impossible task we're going to see if we can make possible. After blitzing through the woods of mystery by taking the path without the monkey's help and talking to Kume, this makes her sister Kotake give us the healing potion she'll need to get back up. With the witch fully healed, the boat tour is now open. Hopping on what in this run feels like a painfully slow boat ride, we finally make our way to the city of this absolute bop, the Deku Palace. To save time here, you don't actually need to use beans to reach the captured monkey. A well-placed backflip into a front row can give Link enough height to grab this ledge. Taking out this Deku scrub allows us to use the flower, which is needed to make it to the final platform and reach the captured monkey. Now, since we skipped getting the beans, this is gonna be a problem later on, but that's future Smiffic's problem. Talking to the monkey, we now have the Sonata of Awakening. The first of many steps completed, and it's only 8:55 AM on the first day, and we can already access the first dungeon. But before we head to Woodfall, it's time to grab one of the most critical songs of this run, the Song of Soaring, our means to warp around the map and how we'll get back to Milk Road later on. Now, the strategy for Woodfall Temple is simple. Get in, get the bow, and dash straight towards Snowhead. There isn't enough time at this point to beat the dungeon fully. Time is running out. Then, disaster struck. The moths followed the flame, damaging me in mid-jump, casting Link down into the poison water, leading to our demise. So that sucked. We lost a lot of time we couldn't afford to lose, which was a heavy blow to morale, but there was still a chance we might be able to pull this off. We just need to execute everything from here on out nearly flawless. We rush straight for the mini-boss and take it out. Bow acquired. With the bow in hand, we can now break the giant icicle blocking the way to the mountain path. As I broke the giant icicle though, I realized something. I had forgotten one of the most critical items needed to progress. the bombs. These are required to blow up the snowballs further ahead, blocking the path. We make a mad dash back to the clock town and pick up the silver rupee chest. The bomb bag is now ours. Just over 5 hours remaining to reach Romani. The pressure is truly on. After destroying the snowballs with bombs, we activate the owl statue in the mountain village for faster travel later. Next, it's time to head for the Lens of Truth and Goron's Lullaby. With each second passing and getting closer to failure, I decided to gamble on an untested strategy. I was curious if you could start the Goron Lullaby quest early if you spoke to the Goron baby as a human. You see, in order to get the song, you have to speak to the baby first, then find the elder since he will only teach you the song after you tell him the child has been crying. Typically, you only begin this quest once you have the Goron mask, which allows you into the Goron shrine at any time. However, this Goron right here will let you inside the shrine if you speak to him as a human. Now inside and have spoken to the baby, we'll see if my plan works. It was time to go back outside and collect the next crucial item, the Lens of Truth. After following Kapora's feathers, we finally collect the Lens of Truth, which allows us to see Damani and heal him in order to receive the Goron mask. The time, 2:15 p.m. Less than 4 hours remain to reach Romani. Now to see if the plan worked. Grabbing the hot spring water before leaving, the Goron Elder was located and freed from his icy prison. To my surprise, speaking to the Goron baby first as a human worked. The Elder now told us the lullaby intro. This alone has helped save us precious minutes. With the Goron Lullaby learnt, it was time to head for Snowhead Temple. After the Goron baby's 80s music video, of course, and some sick drifts up the spire, leading towards the temple. Now inside, there is only one goal for the moment. Get the fire arrows and get out. After collecting the key required to make our way to the mini-boss, we progress to the room with the giant icicles. Now this room, there is a stray fairy hidden behind a fake wall. In Snowhead Temple, there's actually two things I want out of this place. The fire arrows and all 15 stray fairies. The fairies are going to become of great use later on in the game, as they grant double magic. It may seem like grabbing this one is a waste of time, but fun fact, stray fairies and gold skull tokens actually pause the timer whilst the dialogue box is up. After dashing to the mini-boss and taking Wizrobe out, the fire arrows are now ours. We're only one key item away from reaching Romani. Immediately soaring out, it was time to head to the giant Goron who has our powder keg. We swiftly passed the test to open up the Goron Raceway. However, I heard something I didn't want to hear. The bells are ringing out. Less than 30 minutes remain. After return to the Goron, we now have a keg of our own. It's time to destroy the boulder blocking the way to the ranch and finally use the owl statue we unlocked right at the start. With only 2 minutes spare, we made it to Romani. And while in order to learn the song, you have to pass Romani's archery test. Luckily, the timer pauses during this section. After being an aim god, we finally have the most critical song of the run, Epona's Song. We can now access Great Bay and Ikana, but there was another song we need to get before the night is over, the Song of Storms. Luckily, getting this song is fairly straightforward. We head on over to Ikana Graveyard with Epona, wake up Captain Kita and strike him down, so he grants us the Captain's Mask. You don't actually need the hookshot to reach this chest. You can either use an explosion to launch Link over, which is known as long jumping, or simply use the Goron mask to cross the gap. Now, with the ability to command the undead, we use the mask to get the local forces to open up this gravestone, leading to the Song of Storms. After dispatching the Iron Knuckle guarding this area, the song is ours. Before setting out to the graveyard, I made a quick detour to buy some red potion and bomb shoes. What's the red potion for? We're going to use it to get the stone mask, which will make us invisible to enemies. This mask is located with a soldier named Shiro, just outside the graveyard. After curing his invisible ailment, he gives us the stone mask. This mask is going to come in clutch later on. Since we have Epona, we can access Great Bay and obtain the final transformation mask, the Sora mask. After a jam session with Mikau, who perished from Performing Society, we now have the Sora mask. We waste no time activating the owl statue for this area, and now it's time to set off to the Pirate's Fortress. This area holds one of the best movement items, the hookshot. After equipping the stone mask and firing some well-placed shots, we head for the main room of the fortress. Unleashing the horde of hornets, we empty the main room in the fortress and obtain our hookshot. Now, I just want to take a second to avert your attention that all of this was done in 13 in-game hours. Lastly, since we only have one bottle for now, we grab the egg in this room and return to Great Bay to drop the egg off. Coming back into Clocktown and collecting the Stray Fairy, we're able to make the Great Fairy whole again and obtain the Great Fairy Mask. Why is this mask required, you might be thinking? You see, I said I wanted 2 items out of Snowhead. In order to gather some of the stray fairies in the temple, you need a mask to make them fly towards you, since they're unattainable otherwise. Since we nearly have every item in the game already, it's time to finally clear out the dungeons that I left midway. Storming back into Woodfall Temple and being a snipe god, the second mini-boss is down, granting us the boss key. Using the hookshot in the final room, you can hook onto the fire lantern next to the boss door to save time. Busting down Odora's door and stun-locking him by spin attacking, he's easily taken care of, granting us the oath to order. With this boss down, we can now return the Deku Princess back to the palace and save the monkey. Except that would take too long. So we just open up her prison and let her make her own way home. We have a moon to stop. As we land back into Snowhead, a sight I didn't want to see appeared. Dawn of the second day. Time is running out. Storming back up the spiral slope, it's time to finish Snowhead Temple. Our mission here? Slay Goat, collect the remains, and rescue the rest of the stray fairies. After gathering a few of the fairies, I decided to switch it up and gun straight for the boss room, as the remaining fairies are actually near the start of the dungeon. After defeating Wizrobe again, we have the boss key and the means to take down Goat. Luckily, I knew of a faster way to take down the boss. Instead of chasing after Goat with the Goro mask, you can snipe down Goat with arrows, leading to a faster kill. After a barrage of arrows, Goat is down, 2 dungeons down, 2 to go. With Goat not being an issue anymore, it was time to grab the last fairies and collect our bounty. Double magic. Now armed with double magic and carrying the remains of my fallen enemies, it was time to prepare for Great Bay. We now need only to obtain 2 more bottles to make collecting the Sora eggs in Pirate's Fortress and Pinnacle Rock much faster. The problem with getting bottles in Majora's Mask is that half of them require you to waste too much valuable time. Luckily for us, the other half are much easier to obtain. How are we going to do this, you may ask? It's time to go racing. One is given by finishing first place at the Goron Raceway, the other by racing the beavers at the Waterfall Rapids. With the competition destroyed and their morales broken, we now have 3 bottles in our possession. Okay, we have a new problem. Currently, we have 2 empty bottles, and a bottle containing gold dust from the Goron Raceway. The problem is that we can't just drop the gold dust. It's used to make the gilded sword, something we don't have the time to make. Luckily though, it's possible to sell the dust to the Curiosity Shop. The catch though? The shop only opens up at 10 PM, and it's currently 3:30 PM. Thinking fast, I decided to change the plan and go to Ikana Canyon early. Immediately, we walk back to Clocktown and pick up the supplies we'll need to progress beneath the well. This includes a fish, some milk, and lastly, some beans. Remember earlier how I said skipping the beans would be a problem later on? Well, hello, it's Future Smiffic here. This is now a problem. Since we jumped up to the final section of the Deku Palace, we skipped needing to use beans. My plan was to go buy the beans from the Deku Scrub near the Swamp Owl statue. Well, it turns out you can't buy the beans from the Deku Scrub unless you talk to the bean salesman first. After sneaking our way back through the Deku Palace and talking to the bean salesman, we can finally obtain our beans that are needed for the well. Also, remember back at the start when I said Epona was critical to this plan? This is her time to shine. With Epona, we can challenge the Gorman Bros to a race. Placing first in this race nets us the Garo mask. This mask is vital as it's the only way to access Ikana Canyon. This is why Epona was so important. Wearing the Garo mask in front of this hooded figure, they grant us access into Ikana Canyon by conveniently placing a tree stump for us. Using the hookshot, we ascend into the valley. You might be wondering, how are we going to progress further since normally you need the ice arrows? Ice arrows that you get in Great Bay Temple. Let me show you. Taking out these Octoroks, you're supposed to freeze to pass, and using sword slashes to line up perfectly on the edge of this grass patch, the hookshot can actually reach the tree stump. And with that, we're in. No glitches, no hovering, just simple positioning and a whole lot of time saved. We head to Sharp's grave, cure him by playing Song of Storms, his brother's composed song. This then removes the Gibdos outside the house. This house has our next critical mask, the Gibdo mask. Sneaking into the house and encountering some nightmare fuel, we play the Song of Healing, which gets us the Gibdo mask, allowing us to talk to the Gibdos in the well. We are now in the well. It's a labyrinth filled with Gibdos that all want specific things. After giving these Gibdos the beans we had to painfully backtrack for, we progress throughout the well. Finally making it to our prize, the Mirror Shield, a requirement for Stone Tower Temple. The time? 7:05 p.m. on day 2. Less than 35 hours remain. Finally, from the depths of the well, we arrive topside outside the ancient castle of Ikana. Luckily, nothing can go wrong here. After a simple trek through the castle, we arrive outside the boss room. After a quick battle utilizing the Deku Mask to stun and the Goro Mask to deal damage, the king is down and we are granted that song. Anyways, now that we have a creepy statue of ourselves, the clock has struck 10 p.m, meaning we can finally sell our gold dust. With the dust sold and the bottle freed, it's time we finally climb Stone Tower. Here's a cool thing you might not know. You don't actually need all the transformation masks to climb the tower. You can actually climb it with just one of the masks, and it's much faster too. The only trick we used here is to use sword slashes again to line up for the perfect hookshot spot, to skip needing to hold down one of the switches which you would normally use to progress. With the climb complete, Stone Tower Temple is now in our sight. Utilizing the one mask method again, and calling this block to come over, we play Elegy of Emptiness to send us straight to the entrance. With the long climb of the tower completed, we have finally breached into the temple. Luckily for us, the temple plays out normally throughout the first half. Now, if you didn't know, Stone Tower Temple is a unique dungeon that requires you to get the light arrows from inside the temple to invert the entire dungeon, literally flipping it on its head. Our goal here is to take out Twin Mode for the remains and collect its stray fairies again. Why the strays again? I'll explain soon. After grabbing some of the stray fairies and with the mini boss down, our bounty is ready to be collected, the light arrows. Now it's time to flip the dungeon on its head. Time for the inverted Stone Tower Temple. I love this dungeon, man. Anyways, same plan. Grab all the stray fairies we can, as well as unlocking routes to a few more which will need to be collected when we flip the temple back. Halfway through the inverted side, however, a horrible reminder appeared. Dawn of the final day. 24 hours remaining. We rush to face off with the Reaper Gomez. After a long fight and death stopped by a fairy, Gomez is down and the boss key is ours. Lastly, this dungeon rewards us with 2 prizes. The light arrows and the giant's mask. After fighting an Igor, the mask is ours. All that is left is to face off with Twin Mode. Disaster struck again, however. I didn't know you could void out the boss battle, which sends you back to the start of the dungeon. A quick dungeon crawl and hooking onto this chest, we're back in the boss room. After turning into Big Boy Link and becoming an AIM god, Twin Mode is down and the remains are ours. But we're not done yet. We still have a few strays to collect. The reason for this? We still have a final boss to face off with, Majora. Our problem is that we only have the Kokiri sword, the weakest sword of the game, which is going to make the fight a lot more harder. Luckily for us though, these fairies lead to something even stronger than the Gilded Sword, which we didn't have time to get forged. The Great Fairy Sword. This sword doesn't mess around. It's 4 times stronger than the Kokiri Sword and has a far further reach. After collecting the remaining strays, we are rewarded with this beast of a weapon, and boy, do I feel more confident in the Majora fight now. With the sword collected, this leaves us with one final area, Great Bay. The time is now 1:45 p.m. on day 3. We have 14 hours and 15 minutes remaining before the moon crashes into the land of Termina. We warp straight to Great Bay and go to Pinnacle Rock to collect the 3 eggs we didn't gather yet. Now normally, you're supposed to take a picture of a pirate and give it to the fisherman to receive the seahorse. This seahorse guides you through Pinnacle Rock to make sure you don't void out the area. However, you don't actually need the seahorse. If you know the path, you can just simply travel straight through and get to the main area. After taking down the 3 eels, the eggs are ours. With the eggs deposited back in the lab, we quickly head back to Pirate's Fortress and collect the remaining eggs there. And with that, our goal is complete. Saving all the Sora eggs teaches us the final song we need, the New Wave Bossa Nova. With this song, we can finally go to Great Bay Temple. Here it is, the final dungeon of the run. The time, 5:50 p.m. on day 3. The final day. We have less than 12 hours remaining to finish the job. However, I still have a trick up my sleeve to save time. To start, we progress through the dungeon as normal until we reach this room. Now, this room is special as it's actually the room which holds the boss key. The catch, however, you can't get over to it since you need the ice arrows in order to progress and have to face off with the dungeon's second mini-boss to reach it. However, placing a bomb down and having Link stand next to this edge, I let go of the stick, which then propels Link much further than normal, allowing us to grab this ledge. On our first try, and with that, the boss key is ours super early. With the dungeon's second mini-boss skipped and the boss key obtained, all that is left to do is turn on the valves to allow the water to shoot out from the fence and finally grab the ice arrows. First, we start with the ice arrows, as they're actually required to complete the dungeon, unless you use bomb hovering, which again isn't allowed in this run. With the mini-boss down, we get the ice arrows, our last main item of the game. Using the ice arrows, we freeze this Octorok to turn the water valve, allowing us to change the rotation of the water flow later. After activating the remaining valves, we arrive outside the boss chamber. This is it, the final dungeon boss. The last hurdle standing in our way is Gyorg. And what's even better for us, Gyorg has a quick kill method. If you snipe Gyorg with an arrow as it's lunging towards you from the water, we can get Gyorg in a position where we can keep stunning it using Sora Link's magic move, allowing us to damage Gyorg multiple times. And with that, Gyorg has fallen and the remains are ours. Every dungeon boss is now complete with less than 6 hours spare. The final countdown has begun. Majora is waiting for us. However, there is one final thing I want to get. The upgraded spin attack. Mainly to try hit Majora from further away. We quickly head back into Woodfall Temple and clean up the remaining stray fairies. We're rewarded with the upgraded spin attack ability, and finally, I'm now ready. 3 hours, 32 minutes. That's all the time that remains before Termina meets his terrible fate. But that's not happening. After calling the giants, we have completed our task. We had 72 hours to start. Get Epona before night 1 happened. Grab Song of Storms before day 2 happened. Collect 2 additional bottles. Slay all the dungeon bosses. And even had time to spare to collect 3 of the 4 dungeon stray fairies. All of this accomplished in just under 69 hours. Nice. All that is left is to finally take down Majora and finish this. Here we are. The end game. No more timer, just a peaceful area. All that remains is our last target. Majora has 3 phases to the fight, using a mixture of the Sora Mask to knock Majora out of the air, followed by the Great Fairy Sword. We make short work of the first phase. On to phase 2, and I absolutely love this part. I mean, look at Majora schmoove! Anyways, after knocking Majora down, it's time to put the upgraded spin attack to work and push the fight onto the final phase. Majora is a lot more deadlier now, and has whips which can make this fight go bad fast. It's time we put our stray fairy rewards to work. Using well-timed arrows, we're able to punch through Majora's defenses, opening up a chance to attack. After using a combo of arrows and jump slashes, we've got Majora on the ropes. After almost getting grabbed by Majora's whip, our final arrow flew, releasing me and stunning it, unleashing one final spin attack. Majora is finally down, and the job has been finished. And with that, Majora's Mask, in 3 days, 72 hours only, completed. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Thank you so much to my Patreons. I'll catch all of you in the next one.